Well, hello everyone. Welcome to our Legacy 23 Match Officials panel, where we turn the spotlight on officiating in the modern era. We're joined by 4 experts in the field. And before we begin, allow me to introduce everyone on the call, and let's check how everyone's going after, 12 months of a challenging period through the COVID-19 pandemic and all the ramifications for our game. So first up, Kari Seitz, FIFA Head of Refereeing Women, with us from Zurich, Switzerland. So it's Grüezi. How are you, Kari?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for the invitation to this this panel, and it's great to see my esteemed colleagues.
It's lovely to have you with us. Bibiana Steinhaus, a video assistant referee who's joined us from Germany, where it's also the afternoon, so it's Guten Tag. Bibiana, is all well in Hanover?
Guten Tag. Hey guys, so good to see you. I'm really happy to see you almost in person now, where like the lockdown is still going on, and we are missing each other's company, I have to say.
Yeah, it's the new normal, isn't it? This sort of meeting. Now from the States, Esfandiar Baharmast, a former FIFA referee and referee instructor, tuning in bright and early from the States. Essie, how are you?
G'day, very well, doing great here. Wonderful to be on this panel with my esteemed colleagues, friends, people that we have wonderful memories from different tournaments, and good to be together virtually.
Great to see you too. Kate Jacewicz, FIFA, AFC and Football Australia referee here in Australia. Good evening to you, Kate. How are you in Melbourne?
Very lovely, thank you.
Great to have you with us. And we've also got Sarah Walsh, who's head of women's football, Women's World Cup Legacy, also in Australia. Late night in Sydney. How are you going, Sarah?
I'm good, thank you, Steph. It's great to be here with, a pretty star panel. So I'm excited to hear the conversation tonight.
Yeah, indeed. And it is great to have you all with us to share your experiences. Kari, perhaps if you start, can you tell us, what does a typical day look like for you?
You're saying COVID, we have typical days. I'm not sure that there is such a thing. I would say it starts with Zoom calls. But really my focus, whether we're on the pitch or we're, talking on these phone calls, finding a solution to be part of football, it's really working, thinking, figuring out how to improve women refereeing. So it's a lot of meetings. And when we're not in meetings, hopefully one day we'll be back out on the pitch working with the referees to improve refereeing globally. So there is no typical day, I would say, but that would be what I spend my time on.
So no longer running around with the whistle per se, but do you get weekends now? Where would we find you at, say, 10 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday?
Well, I mean, if you sort of have 2 options. We're either at a FIFA competition and we're on the pitch every day, but as a coach, not running around with the whistle. Otherwise, I'm watching football in my home office and observing the matches of my Women's World Cup candidates from around the world. So you can't watch them all week. So guess what you're doing on the weekend? You're catching up and checking their progress. So it's football is what I would say.
And it's a bit of a different role for you after so many years of actually refereeing. Can you tell us, if you look back at your career, what makes you the most proud?
I would say what has made me most proud is the accomplishments of other women referees. Start with Bibi, and then many years she was in the Bundesliga, and in just the last year and a half, the number of women, Kate, who is now part of the Australian Football League there, the number of women who are representing themselves at these top competitions, men's football, and also internationally. We just sent 3 women to the Club World Cup, which is a FIFA senior event, which we've never done before. But that's because we have enough quality women to do that. And that their accomplishment, I feel, is all of our accomplishment. And that's the thing I'm most proud of. My football career, soccer career as a referee allowed me get to this position to really, my goal is to open doors for as many people as possible, but they have to go through them. Kate took all the work to make that happen. But my job is to try to, get people all on board, to get them to think in this direction and see what's possible. So I feel like my refereeing work has really led me to this opportunity to help open doors for others.
Well, let's get the thoughts of Bibiana and Kate. Bibiana, for you first, what does your normal day look like?
Yeah, first of all, I really have to step in straight away and follow Kari on her statement, because it's like, I mean, Kari, you and other women like started the way and like pushed the barriers really forward, and it was our chance to push them even more and to raise the standard even better. And it's an absolute pleasure being part of the journey, like, and open the doors for like other women coming through. And I totally agree. Now it's really our job to do things in the background as well, to help women to get the most out of their possibilities, like to set everything up that they can really focus on their work on the pitch, because we have seen it all over the world now. The quality is there. So when the women have the chances, they perform, they show up their work, and this is a new normal. COVID or not, we are there and we keep pushing things forward. And in Germany, we are still in lockdown, as said, but the professional football is still running. So we are still traveling. We are still like doing our job on and off the field as video assistant referees. And the new normal helps as well to instill new education tools pretty fast, because now we have to. And this is absolutely interesting, to being part of this technology dimension now, when we really have to find things online, technology-wise, to promote and support our performance on the pitch.
So as a video assistant referee, does that mean a lot of studying vision? Like on a normal day, if you're not actually at a match, what would you be doing?
So the good thing is that we have options now to use online tools, because it's so important as a video referee to know what to look for, to know which angle is best for the decision you have to make, which camera you have to use, how fast or how slow you have to use the pictures. And is it a question of like a point of contact where you can use a single frame, a single picture to identify, or if it's kind of an active situation where you have to take the speed and intensity into considering the final results. So like all these different things are so interesting, and you definitely see football from another perspective now.
Indeed. And if we were looking for you on a weekend, where would we find you?
The main headquarter of video assistant refereeing in Germany is Cologne. So everybody is speaking from the Cologne basement, but it's actually the video assistant center referee in Cologne where we are based and where we look all the matches here in Germany.
Kate, for you, you're still running around in the middle with the whistle, and I think people sometimes underestimate how much fitness and how much work goes into actually being the person officiating in the middle of the park. What does an average day look like for you?
Yeah, so I'm sure everyone on this panel can attest to the expectations that the World Cup Candidates program has set for us, and it's certainly raised the bar for women officials, and it certainly, I want to say, changed my perspective and changed my attitude. You know, I've gone on my own personal journey from fitness. I wouldn't call myself the fittest person, the most athletic person, or referee going around. However, the lessons I've learned and the expectations that not only were set for us, but then kind of allowed us to set for ourselves as well. Like, we wanted to attain those goals, not only for us, but also for the group. And I feel that like that was a really strong and powerful message for every single woman that was on the candidates program. You know, Kari kept basically saying like reach higher, and every single person on that candidates program did. I I personally believe that. So in terms of what I'm doing on a weekend or throughout the week, it's training 6 days a week, sometimes two times a day, just to ensure that, yes, we're training, but also we're recovering in order to train for the next one.
Yeah, you're
next session.
Still a professional athlete, aren't you? Tell me though, on a match day, what's the morning look like?
Well, definitely two different routines. Currently, I'm also on the VAR panel here in Australia as well. So if I'm the referee whistling, it'll be a coffee and a walk in the morning with some music. And for VAR, I'd be walking to the VAR centre. Pretty much the same routine, but probably less, more activity in the morning. Probably doing some training and then walk to the VAR centre. So everything's active. You've got to fill up every moment between your times, because you're traveling to Sydney to the VAR centre like Bibi has to, going to Cologne. You have to fit in those training sessions in order to meet the expectations and fit it all in.
Absolutely. Essie, how about you? You almost retired, but you haven't, have you?
No, there is no retirement in this business. You are born with it and you die with it. You go all the way. So I'm back to where I started. I'm the director of referees, and I'm giving it back to the grassroots. I'm also like a top athlete, like Kate said. I do the coffee and the walking part.
So does that mean that you now sometimes get weekends off? You can relax?
No weekends off. Weekends I'm out there Saturdays, Sundays, looking at the young referees on the field and giving them pointers, giving mentoring, coaching, watching, talking to coaches, talking to parents who may be a little bit getting out of line and say, look, you would not be doing this to your own kid. Why are you doing this to a 14-year-old or a 15-year-old? And kind of bring him down and make the environment a little bit more friendly.
Indeed. Essie, if you look back at your career, because it's been varied, like Kari was talking about, you spend time in the middle with the whistle, there's many highlights, and then a different career off the field. What are you most proud of when you look at your career?
You're looking at the ladies who are here. I am proud to see Kari come from where she came from. We go back a little bit. So this was in Chicago, and we were having indoor soccer, and she was a goal judge. So indoor soccer goal judge, that was like entry-level football for her to come in. And I remember, because when we had the 94 World Cup in the US, Kari was just sitting in the stands and say, that would be something cool that I would like to do. And then to see how far she has come and what she has brought forward. And the fact that we have now Edina from Brazil and her team in the Club World Cup, and what Bibiana has done, what Kate has done, what Stephanie Frappart has done. I mean, I can go on and on. What Claudia Umpierrez has done in Uruguay, and how they are setting the trends, not only in football, but for the women around the world. For me, that is the most satisfying thing I can see.
Sarah Walsh, as a former player, it was your job to torment referees. How proud are you of how far women have come in that particular role now that you're in a different position yourself?
Well, I'm not very proud of, thank you, Steph. I'm not very proud of my behaviour on the pitch with referees. I'm pretty sure I wasn't too bad. We were just joking before with Kari. I'm pretty sure she potentially called my last match with the US a very long time ago. Look, I'm actually, just to echo what everyone else has said, I'm awfully proud that we're, the journeys that everyone on this panel has had within the game, we're here giving it back and making sure we're paying it forward. And, these conversations are very, very important to have, not just for International Women's Day. But I think, something I'm proud of is being able to create these platforms where we can have these discussions to move the continuum a little bit forward, and also profile some of the really great work happening, because we all know how important visibility is for creating a bigger base and making sure that we are supporting and connecting with the future emerging leaders within officiating and all other spaces within the game. So I'm just actually pretty privileged to be here having these discussions today.
Yeah, Kari, what Sarah just said there is indicative of a responsibility on all of the people on this panel, because you're paving the way. How would you describe your leadership style on and off the pitch?
I consider myself, let's say, a driven motivator. So, as Kate said, I really believe in the untapped potential of people, especially these women referees who I know are capable of so much more than they even realize. And that is really an area of focus me. At the same time, I have a vision for where I want us to be. And so that's what I mean about the driven part. I'm really driven to make that happen. I try to be inclusive. I have very strong ideas, but I do try to be inclusive and want others feedback. But I know that the path to get there requires a lot of people's involvement. It can't be a one person point of view. It's got to be a lot of people, and it has to be men and women both that see this vision in the same way, because it takes all of us to be successful. It takes everyone to believe that this is possible, both the referees themselves, my managers, the people at FIFA, the people at the Confederation. So you really have to be inclusive in the approach these days. If we're not inclusive, it's just one person fighting other people, we're not going to get anywhere. So it's inclusive, but also I'm really driven and I try to be a motivator. Maybe those are the three words I would use. Probably better to ask others since they see me work and they may have a better idea, but that's how I see myself. I feel like for us to really make a change in culture, we have to really affect change on many levels, and it requires us kind of all to move together in the same direction. And I would say, pointing out to Essie, as he was, as he mentioned, a leader in U.S. soccer. He was the director of referees, so my boss for a long time. And I've looked in the past to really emulate a lot of the characteristics he has around integrity, the way he's inclusive, his motivation style, which I could never repeat. But those kinds of attributes are things that that I've learned from him. And as a man, he's always demonstrated sort of this openness, and we need more people like Essie to be involved in the program. So I'm really thrilled that you included him on this call. So just a few comments.
Well, Essie, some huge kudos there. What made you decide to champion female referees?
A mother gave birth to me. And you can't ask for anything more than that. I mean, women nourish the world, they nurture the world, and they are the biggest untapped reservoir of talent in the world. All they need is an opening. And always having been among strong women, I believe that. When I get on an airplane and I see a woman pilot, immediately I know that she has done more than any counterpart to be there. So at any position of power, when I see women, I know they have done more than their male counterparts to be. And all you have to do is take a look and see at the job that they do, at the work that they do. And if we just be open and equal, this world would be so much better than where it is today.
From that perspective, Essie, what do you think are the biggest challenges facing women in this field?
Just the fact that the door should be opened. I mean, I know what Kari has done because I was there trying to get the games, trying to get the ladies into the men's game. In India, when we had the under-17 men World Cup, to bring the first women to be there to help out. And once people see that they can get the job done, once that door is open, there is no closing it. So we have to be open, we have to be inclusive, and once the door is open, it is over, it is done. And now you have to say, you know what? They not only they do the job so much better, and with all the obstacles all the obstacles that they have in their way. You know, it's I think it was Ginger Rogers who said, "I can do anything that a man can do in high heels."
Bibiana, I'm expecting that the video assistant referee is not always doing that in high heels, but how much of what Essie says resonates for you?
I actually got goosebumps when Essie spoke, because like here you can see a true supporter of women on and off the field, of women in football, women in sports. And I'm so proud I've been working with you all these years. It's absolutely amazing that at the end of the day, the only thing matters is quality. This is what we are all looking for. The quality of the individuals, no matter if they're male or female, if they're like from America, Australia, or from Europe, it doesn't matter. And this is what we should look for. We should look for the best referees, no matter if they are male or female. Quality matters, that's it. And to support that and to make the football and the sport more diverse, we need more women in different jobs in football, not only on the field of play, also as coaches, as presidents, as leaders in like different areas, in different levels, to make it as normal as possible that also women can run the show. But as well, it's super important that we define it as a common goal, like as a together goal, because we can't work against each other, and nobody wants to do that. That's not the main perspective. We have to do it hand in hand. And this is something which we have to work on, definitely.
You talked about leaders. Did you have leaders that you looked up to that impacted your career?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. You always have examples in front of you, and you can learn from the good examples and from the need improvement examples as well. That's super important to know. When you see something, do you try to walk in these shoes, or you see these footsteps and you think like, yeah, I can see why you have done it, but this is not my style. This is not my personal style. And I have to find my own way to define it. I think that's very important as well. We had women and referees like opened the doors, but now it's really time to find your own strengths, to find your own qualities and your own strategies to make yourself walking forward.
Is there one characteristic that when you think of a leader that you think leaders should have?
I want to see what I get. I want a clear structure. I want discussion. I want communication. And I definitely want transparency. If I like it or not, I can deal with it.
This is true. When you have all the elements in front of you, it's much easier to make a good decision. Kate, how did you come to be a referee? Was there someone that mentored you or impacted your career?
I would have to say, in terms of impacting my career, probably after the fact that I became a referee, would be my mum. She went with me to my first referee course and sat with me because it was a room full of boys and men. So she sat there with me and would drive me to all my games. But yeah, I don't know why I took up refereeing. I just played the game and I loved it. And once I got to actually whistle my first match as an unregistered referee, because my brother's team didn't have a referee for his match, I said to my mum, I want to do it again and again and again. And yeah, so mum really paved the way for me in terms of just showing me, I guess, what, like just being myself in the match, and being the person who I was. I mean, she always jokes and saying that I was her first sparring partner in terms of arguing. And so that's how I became so, I guess, sharp-tongued in, you know, talking with players who back chat. I'm sure Sarah has a few stories about that. But yeah, so certainly my mom would be probably the biggest influence.
Yeah, and I definitely have to say, Kate, you have such a calmness and you have such a control, like, of everything's going around. I love that. I really love that. Like, you are showing the world that you know everything. You are absolutely focused. You're straight. You have a way of communicating with the people that's excellent, and that's, from my perspective, definitely one of your biggest strengths, and I love to watch that.
There you go, Kate.
Thank you.
Bibiana just
That's
summed
very
it up
kind.
for you. Kari, we've heard such generous comments between a real feeling of togetherness from this group here. How difficult is it, though, to show leadership and to stay connected? And what is the biggest challenge during COVID-19 when we can't all get together?
It is a bit of a, well, it is a challenge. We obviously, I mean, you don't want to say we're lucky to have a pandemic at this time, but the fact that we have this technology available to us puts us in a really different position. Bibi talked a little earlier about technology and how that can really is a benefit, not only the video assistant referee aspect to the game, but we've been, in the last year, developed a lot of tools to share learning, teaching, that we otherwise could only meet in person. And now we have a lot more tools that allow us to get together on a call and review videos together, discuss the game. It's not the same as being on the pitch, but it's the next best thing. And there are a lot of solutions, and we're continuing to evolve. And maybe, for example, in my role as managing the women referee, but we also have other jobs at FIFA where I'm responsible for developing some of the teaching materials that we send to all the different member associations. And we had to rely on sort of a top-down method. So you get to these senior level instructors and maybe they hand it to the next person, or maybe they hand it to the next person. We can make more of that information available directly to the referees. And by doing that, we can accelerate, I hope, the teaching, the learning, and the enthusiasm around refereeing. So we can use technology in different ways. So we as leaders have to be open to reinvent ourselves, to find new solutions. But the end result is the same. We always want referees to improve. How can we do that? What can we use in front of us? So if we just say, well, this is the way we used to do things, I think we will suffer. But if we say, how can I continue to do things better? Then we will continue to have success. That it includes the inclusiveness, but also technology, interacting with people. So I think while the challenges exist, it's also been this strangely exciting time to reinvent ourselves and try new things. So maybe this is my attitude. I'm always motivated for change. So we've been trying to take advantage of this COVID time as much as possible. Do I miss being on the field? Oh, I can't wait to get on an airplane, I tell you, just to go somewhere. But this idea of solutions in between, that is also really exciting.
Well, Bibiana, if we talk about developments in the game and always pushing ourselves to get better, in the context of football, VAR is a relatively new development, and we want to keep improving it and make sure that it's the best fit. How difficult is that when you're guiding other people through that process during the pandemic?
Oh, not only during a pandemic, it's really important. Like, this transparency we spoke about is very, very important. And you can't stop, like, telling the football fans over and over and over again what the possibilities are at the moment and where possibilities end as well. So things are growing, things are moving, and especially in technology, I'm sure we will find other things to keep it going and to make the game even more fair and more realistic. And so I'm pretty sure we are not at the end of the road, as Kari said. We are always moving, and technology is definitely a big part now in the game, not only as referees on the field. I mean, we know how players and clubs improve themselves, and like what technologies they use to define their game and the match of the opponents, and what strategies they use, and how less the football itself is involved in some training sessions.
And Kate, for you, you're obviously still at games, but it's a different experience when you're trying to perhaps provide mentorship or leadership to younger referees coming through. How do you deal with the fact that, you know, there's no fans here, and that can make a big difference when they're going to have to face that in the future, or the situation's very different. You're now dealing with having VAR. How are you coping with that in a leadership perspective during the pandemic?
Yeah, I think certainly the added component of no crowds adds to a different feature to a football match. You know, you talk about emotions in football, and you know, I'm not going to sit here and say that, you know, crowd influences decisions, but I've seen a lot of decisions recently on the field where there's no one in the crowd, but you can see a foul, but everyone's kind of silent, and you know, the players are kind of looking at each other, kind of expecting a foul. Do we, don't we, that type of thing. So I think it certainly adds another layer of complexity to football and decision making on the field for referees. And it really, I guess, adds to like what a referee has to see on the field as well. Like, you know, they just can't feel the game or feel the emotions. You know, I'm going to put up my hand and say there are sometimes that, you know, I could smell the foul, I could feel the foul, so we give it. However, you know, now we actually really have to see the foul as well, and really know what to look for. It certainly added complexity to that, and trying to explain that to younger referees is I mean, they're learning it much earlier in their career, so maybe it's a good thing.
Essie, is there more complexities at the moment to trying to bring more females through into the game?
Here in the US, we try to make it as easy and as enticing as possible. And again, the fact that we have these role models that we can show, the fact that we can say, look at the Club World Cup. You know, we just had a trio of women do these matches. And one of the things I have done is, for example, with this Zoom, we had our AGM a couple of weeks ago, and it was so great that I could just ask Bibi, say, Bibi, please, is it possible that you can come in for 10, 15 minutes and just have a conversation with our referees? And nobody knew she was coming in. Nobody. This was a surprise. So as they're all watching videos and this and that, and I'm like, and by the way, because this video is from Bundesliga, I think it's good to hear from somebody from Bundesliga. And then Bibi would come in and start talking. And the look on these people's faces, it was unbelievable. Their eyes just popped out. And there were so many girls, so many women referees on this call. And somebody asked Bibi, how did you become a referee? And she said, my father was a referee, and I started with him. And that's when I said, okay, everybody can unmute, all the fathers and daughters who are on the call, speak. And it was like, I'm Jamie, and this is my daughter Eva. And, you know, it was fantastic. So when you do that and these people talk to each other, it's like, this is the coolest thing. We just had Bibiana on the call with us. You know, this is fantastic. Come and do it. It makes it so much easier to recruit and bring in women referees into the game.
Bibi, do you remember that?
I do, and it's it's such a pleasure, like when you can see that, like we're all referees, we are a real family. And I'm not only saying that, it actually is that way. It doesn't matter from which country you are, it doesn't matter like which level you do, because we have been there. We all have been on the same fields. We know exactly how it is. And to be somebody people can talk to and can have like tips and tricks, and they are going through different situations on the field, difficult for them, and they want to know, like, have you experienced this? Like, what have you done? Is there a strategy I can use? Does it fit to me, or do I have to find something else for my personal use? And so you can go through all this. And I think this is really helpful. This is what I have done with all my mentors, and I don't mind to change the role.
And do you think that the movement to increase female participation in this particular area is, are we going in the right direction? Are we doing the right things? Do we need to do more?
Oh, there's always space for improvement. We can always do more. But I think what is very important that we have said like statements. We have seen female officials all over the world in the top leagues of the world that they can officiate games, and that there's no question any longer if women are able to do that. No, it's proved more than once all over. So that's not the question anymore. And if we can bring more kids, more young girls, more young women into our lovely game, the number will increase, and hopefully we can also increase the quality. We have to understand that women are learning different than men do. I think for women is the community, the group experience, like being together with their friends, especially when they're younger, is very, very important for the kids, for young girls, being in their, how do you say that, peer group, like being in their group is so important. So if we understand that and we have a place open for all of them, I think then we can increase even better.
Essie and Kari, you're both nodding. That looks like something you both completely agree with. Kari, you first?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in the role at FIFA that I have, I'm really responsible for focusing on the Women's World Cup project. But the reality is it's a much bigger picture than that. The idea of us being a role model, us being FIFA, us being Bibi and Kate being role models is meant to really translate to football in a bigger way. And women's involvement, whether it's refereeing, it's coaching, it's playing, it's all the things that make up the sport, administration, there are careers in this that can be had. We're just one small part that hopefully when I see that others like me are there, I'm inspired to try it myself. And so I'm always really focused on the end game, I say, of the Women's World Cup, but that's not really my end game. My end game is opening up the possibilities. And I think all of the people on this call probably have the same feeling. I don't want to speak for them, but my guess is that that's ultimately our goal for ourselves individually, it's, if we're opening the doors for others, it's just not for this level, it's every level that we want to see women involved. And sport is such a powerful, impacting change of your life to be involved, whether you do it at an elite level or not. The skills that I learned for sure made me a better I would hopefully human being, but also in my job, I was not always a head of refereeing, right? I had a regular job while I was a referee. I was responsible for running an advertising agency. And I know that all that work I had as a referee made me a better manager, a better teammate. In so many ways, it's impacted my life. And I want that for other people. I want them to have this same positive experience that sports, that football, and in this case, refereeing can bring to them. So 100% agree with Bibi's bigger picture. Essie, your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. It's more than football. The fact that football brings a higher understanding, the fact that, you know, we can push for equal work, equal pay, so women can get paid for the exact same type of work that they do as men do. Maybe it starts from football. Maybe it starts with Megan Rapinoe and the U.S. women national team. But it's something that gets picked up by the senators and the parliament and, you know, the government. The fact that I talk to people from Australia and Germany, and they know Bibi and Kate, and I ask them, "Are you a football fan?" And they're like, "No, we're not." But the fact that, you know, we see women in strong positions, and we can use that to our daughters and talk to our you know, the friends about the possibilities, is so much more than football. And I think this is what Kari has brought. She also brought humanity into the game. You know, for the first time at the Women's World Cup, referees were allowed to bring in their children, to bring in their family. Never had been done. Never ever this had been done. And to keep that humanity part, that, you know, you cannot separate women from their kids for a month and a half and expect them to be, you know, doing fantastic job. And FIFA understood that. FIFA understood that this is very important part of this. So it's more than football. It has to do with promoting really equality across the board.
Sarah, that's something that's really important to you. And in your role, you've seen that picture as a player. You're now seeing it in governance and in your role as head of women's football, and particularly for the legacy. Kari spoke to the Women's World Cup not being everything, but it's so important, isn't it, that we use it as something that sets the path for a legacy, to create a pathway perhaps for more women to get into these roles post World Cup?
Yeah, exactly right. It's you know, we have a huge opportunity here in Australia to start the work. We've had a look at, you know, what worked, what didn't work in France. We looked into what Canada did for 2015, and so we've built a legacy plan. We launched that last week with the federal government. And one of the 5 pillars is leadership and development, and our focus is trying to deliver opportunities for 4,000 plus women. So that's across coaching, officiating, executives. We might even dip into the media space for your type, Steph. But I think it's important to, and then thinking about intersectionality within that as well. So Indigenous women, women's from all communities, ages, and all abilities. So we've really given this great thought. I think we have a lot of work to do in terms of what kind of programs we would build out. And obviously, I'm not the expert in the space of officiating. And, you know, we have the likes of Sarah Ho, Kate on the call here, Alison Flynn, who was, you know, a long time star in Australia. So look, I think there's experts to talk on what those programs need to look like, but just from my observations as a player, I've always, you know, I thought it takes a very particular, you know, gender aside, it takes a very particular type of person and another level of resilience, I think, to do the role that you guys do. You know, and I saw that firsthand as a player for 25 years, that, you know, you're not only doing your job, you're managing players, you're trying to get the right decisions under a serious amount of scrutiny. So, you know, hats off to you guys. I think that, you know, for women officiators, it's layered once more, in my view. You know, I'll throw a stat out here today. We've done some analysis, and we have 2,500 plus community clubs here in Australia. It turns out only 1 in 5 of those community clubs are considered inclusive enough for women and girls. So, you know, might only have 1 change room, might not have good enough floodlights out the back pitch where, you know, where most of the time the women and girls play. You know, so not only we're not making best use of the community facilities we have, we need to invest further in this space. I'm just wondering, you know, what kind of impact that might be having on this cohort of women who are already, you know, scrutinized to another level than players and coaches are. So I think there's a lot of work to do in this space, and we're going to engage the experts to make sure that we build the right programs out, but we're also starting to think about, you know, how can we change the system a little bit? And there's a lot of synergies with what we want to do with the coaching. We're thinking about making sure that women are not alone on coaching courses, that there's at least, you know, 25% of coaching courses are allocated to women. So one, they're not alone. and two, that we're signaling that we want women on our courses. So, you know, for me, that kind of sounds very similar to what happens in this space. So there's so many synergies across all the types of roles in the game, particularly with executives. You know, more often than not, in a lot of spaces, I might be the only woman in the room, and I'm quite used to that, but the next woman might not be. So, you know, we want to create spaces for all types of women, and actually just trying to change the game to not have women fit into it, but start to shift it so men and women can work together within it.
Yeah, it's an incredible opportunity for development in that pathway, as well as opportunity, though. Kate Jacewicz, Sarah mentioned scrutiny. How much opportunity for you do you think Women's World Cup, you're going to be on home soil? How will that assist in creating leaders in this field for tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, just to steal the cliche, you can't be what you can't see. And I mean, not only myself, Casey, Sarah, Joanna, and Lara, all going to be Australian role models. There's also going to be possibly the best of the best in the world coming to Australian shores, you know, refereeing. And what I love about the World Cup, not only do we see different styles of football and the way it's played, and the types of flavor that every continent or country brings, it's the same with refereeing styles, and we're all different. And like I think Essie said, you know, we're all human, so we all bring that different element, different personality into the game, and you know that it's going to be a showcase for the younger generations, looking at the different referees and knowing, like for me, I knew I wasn't going to be able to play at a World Cup because, you know, I just didn't have the skills. But then I started believing that maybe I could referee at one day. And maybe that is the same type of mentality for any little football player watching on for the World Cup.
Yeah, indeed. And Essie, you mentioned that there's, you know, young people out there that recognize the Kates and the Bibianas, and perhaps they don't even follow football. I feel like so many of you on this panel have already created some form of legacy. And Essie, when you look at what you've done so far, how do you define legacy? And perhaps how do you think you're continuing to work towards it?
My goal is to leave it a little bit better than when I found it, and to pass it on so it makes it a little bit easier for the next person coming along. So when they come, and it's not as much of a struggle as, you know, the ones before. So, and you know, we stand on the shoulder of other giants, and we pass it on. So this is just passing it on forward, making it a little bit better for the next generation, and that's my goal of a legacy.
And Kari, for you, legacy, how do you define it, and how important is this home Women's World Cup to creating a new legacy?
Well, if we were to talk about what legacy is, it's hard to follow Essie because he summarized it really perfectly, to be honest with you. And my goal is to also really just to leave it a little bit better than it was. I mean, a successful Women's World Cup in Australia, New Zealand, we all just spoke about it. It really inspires the next generation, or people who are involved now, to even do better. So we're talking about what it can do for sports and football overall. And you know, myself, I just want to make the world a little bit better, and I want this upcoming World Cup to be, you know, the method that we all can benefit. Australia, New Zealand as a whole, football, women in sports, and refereeing. There's just so many people who benefit from this experience, and I'm really proud of the work that I'm learning that Sarah is really in charge of with this legacy component. That for this Women's World Cup, it's not just thinking about getting these matches right, having the greatest facilities and excellent TV viewership. There's more to it. And the long-lasting effect is going to be things that maybe we're not going to notice right away. Sarah, you're not going to see your work right away, but in 10 and 15 years, we will. I started refereeing, as Essie said, I had that moment in 1994 where I saw the Men's World Cup. It was the first time I'd actually even seen football on TV. And I knew at that moment, that's what I wanted to do. And here I am now at FIFA working as a head of, 20 some years later, or maybe more. And who would have thought? So we don't really know, but if we have in our heart this desire to make things better, we will. And so that's maybe a long answer to the question about legacy.
No, you summed it up really well. And yeah, it is an enormous piece. I don't think Sarah Welsh will be getting much sleep before 2023, but it's a fantastic concept, how it's being approached. Bibiana, are there any words left that have not been mentioned about how you would sum up legacy?
Not much left. So as said, like the little way which was built before, make it into a road, and hopefully the next generation will build motorways all over the globe with it. I think we are like a small piece of puzzle in the whole picture, but I'm super proud to be that part of puzzle. I'm proud to be involved in officiating and refereeing in this great family. And I'm really when I look back on the Women's World Cup 2011 in Germany, where I was a representative of FIFA, but also a representative of my own country, which is such a great feeling. And as well, like, it's a lot of pressure as well, because you want to go everything smoothly. You really want to make the world feel welcome to your part of the world. You really want to show like how beautiful this part of the world is, and this part of football we can bring into it as well. And so I'm really hoping that all these goosebumps, you definitely have goosebumps when you're on the field. I can tell you, like, latest at the national anthems, no matter what national anthem, you're gonna have goosebumps. That these goosebumps kind of jump over to spectators, to the crowds, to the people in front of TV, that they understand how beautiful this game is and how wonderful it can bring the world together. And this is really what I'm hoping for Sarah, that she will be busy for the next years and years and years to make all these people who have these goosebumps involved in the game.
Indeed. Thank you, Bibiana. In closing, perhaps, can I ask you, what do you think International Women's Day means? What does it mean to you? And the theme, of course, is choose to challenge. So in the context of International Women's Day, what would you tell a young woman to choose to challenge?
I still can't believe that we have an International Women's Day to get it into the reality of everybody, that men and women can do something together. So I really hope that in a few years' time, this is not longer necessary, but as long as we have it, I really like it and celebrate it. And I would say to every woman, to every young girl outside, when you choose a jersey, choose it a size bigger and then grow into it. Use all your capacity to fill it with the best of you.
Wow.
Kari? Sorry, Sarah?
I just said, wow, like that's great. I took that advice on, thanks.
Yeah, they're words that I think resonate with young women and older women, and then the tiny girls that are growing up watching what all of you do. And Essie, I include you in embracing that picture. Kari, how do you sum up International Women's Day?
I have this concept I was trying for a long time to figure out how to explain it. And when I said earlier about untapping potential, I do use that phrase. I want everyone to reach higher, because I think that we are capable of much more than we think we are. And that's what I'd want a young girl to think about on International Women's Day. Find your passion, and you can be more than you even realize. But again, choose a bigger jersey size. This is fantastic.
Come on, Essie, as our esteemed male on the panel, tell us what you think about International Women's Day.
You know, we talked about in India. We were in India for the Men's World Cup, and we had the ladies out there. And I was walking into this shop, and I saw this T-shirt that I think it really said it all. It says, "What is your superpower?" I'm a woman, and I think that explains it. That's the superpower. And you know, to tell the women that there is nothing that cannot be done. You know, there is nothing to stop women from accomplishing anything that they set their sight on.
I don't think I can add one more word to any of that. I want to thank all of you for such wonderful input, for the insightful comments you've made, and for sharing your experiences. So Kari, Bibiana, Essie, Kate, Sarah, I think it's thank you, danke schön, danke vielmals, and cheers. You were fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing your time with us.